In another video, I covered the 3 main releases of Silent Hill 2's cover art, and described the differences, meanings, and interpretations into the design choices made. Here, I would like to continue looking at that game, but instead I want to focus on the various editions that were made, be they special editions, director's cuts, or just having alternative art. I'll be going over each of them quickly as there's quite a few to go over, and as usual, be warned that there will be heavy spoilers. Silent Hill 2, Saigo no Uta, The Last Song. Released in 2002 in Japan, this version contains an extra UFO ending as well as adding Maria's side story Born from a Wish. First of all, we can see that it's got a very striking colour to it with an almost metallic negative look. Behind, we can see various characters. Maria in the top right, bobblehead nurses on the top left. Below them we see James, and next to him on the right is something that it's hard to make out, but I believe it's actually 2 enemies, known as mannequins, laying on the floor. It will be easier to make them out in another, clearer version soon. The font remains the same as the main versions, with its web-like structure symbolising decomposition, abandonment, and that everything seems to be connected. The scan lines make it hard to see much going on, but it's definitely a bold choice, and one I think carries well the meaning and secrets of the game. To me it seems like 3 things. One of them is an old photograph that has become worn with age, just like how James carries around a picture of Mary throughout the game that begins to fade as it goes on. The second is the flicker that you would get when you watch an old VHS videotape. One of the main points of the game is that James and Mary made a tape when they stayed there for a while in a hotel, but forgot to take it with them. It's also the way in which James realises what he's done to her that he'd suppressed. Lastly, and the one I find most likely, is that it's some kind of scan that you get when you go to the hospital for various purposes. Mary went to the hospital for a disease that proved to be incurable, and spent a lot of time there, and I'm sure there would have been many tests performed on her, so it's not unlikely that this is what it could be referencing. It's interesting to note that everything on the cover seems to be worn out and faded with the colours obscured, except for one thing. Maria. As the colour and life is fading from everything else, she still seems to remain bold and noticeable. Her skin tone still looking healthy, her top, her makeup, and her hair all looking vibrant and seductive. As Mary lays in hospital passing away, the mind of James grows more twisted through his tortured emotions, and eventually comes to Silent Hill where he meets the woman who embodies the attractive and desirable traits of his dear departed wife. Over a year later, Japan released another version of Saigo no Uta. I don't believe there was any differences in the content itself, just that it did release with another style of its cover. The main noticeable difference here is the colour change between this one and its previous incarnation. The scan lines have disappeared, the colours are easier to make out, and the font has gone from black with a white outline to just solid black, and its surrounding border has changed from a metallic blue-grey to white. With the scan lines gone, I have to admit it looks a little less interesting, but it's definitely easier on the eyes where you can make out everything, including the mannequins that were too obscured before. Maria still seems to be the most dominant character in the box, with her reds and skin tone being bolder than the rest. The other 3 characters' art's washed out colour could also allude to the fact that the others are manifestations, creatures, and monsters summoned by the town from James's guilt of what he did. Being of the same skin tone and washed out colour, James sees himself as one of them. A monster with a suppressed guilt and filled with remorse, even going so far as to commit suicide for his actions in one of the endings. In a massive change to the PlayStation 2 release of Saigo no Uta, the Xbox version, released several months before its PS2 counterpart, instead decided to go its own way with its own artwork for its own console. Here we see Maria laying on the ground of Heaven's Night, a strip club in Silent Hill. The font is the usual one for this game and a nice bold white, which stands out against the faded and beige tones of the image. Here we see Maria laying on the floor of Heaven's Night, her head resting on her bag, which was strongly implied to have worked, or at least have been a desirable manifestation of James, or women who may have worked there. A poster in Silent Hill 3 implies the existence of a Lady Maria, but it's unknown if she is a real person or not. Her pose is strikingly similar to that of Angela Orozco, a tragic character from the same game. She is a young woman who was emotionally, physically, and sexually abused by her brother and father, who escaped to Silent Hill to look for her mother. When James finds her in one of the apartments, she's laying on her side in front of a mirror and holding a knife, contemplating suicide. This seems to be exactly how Maria is in this moment in the strip club. She has that same expression of pain, self-questioning, and longing for something to give her reason and purpose for existing. During the opening of Maria's story, she is also contemplating if it's worth living or not, and that she doesn't want to die painfully. While she may not have a knife in her hand, at the beginning of Born from a Wish, she is holding a handgun, which is most likely placed in her bag. I would say it's either in her other hand or on the floor, but in the image it's based on, it's nowhere to be seen, and the bag seems like a likely place. Another connection she has to Angela is that there's a reflection of her on the ground, which, funnily enough, mirrors Angela laying in front of a mirror in the apartment. A small thought is that the reflection on the ground could also possibly symbolize Mary, the base of Maria's creation and mainly her reason for being. James's desires of his wife made somewhat real, which makes Maria herself unreal. Maria here looks alive and healthy, while the reflection of Mary looks dead, faded, and now just a memory, with the same expression of pain and hopelessness. Finally, on a small note, Maria also seems to be staring directly at the viewer. In this game would be the player, or James, and gives off a very unnerving feeling. Silent Hill 2 Greatest Hits. There really isn't anything to say about the North American Greatest Hits version, released in 2002, as it's exactly the same as its regular release, except from the fact that it's got a red heading with the PlayStation logo and a small hanging banner below saying Greatest Hits. This artwork has already been covered in a previous video, so please check it out if you've yet to do so. Silent Hill 2 Restless Dreams. Like the Greatest Hits version, there's very little in terms of difference to the main version. The main differences are that Restless Dreams is now added as a subheading, and the colours have changed from the greens and whites to oranges and browns. The colour change really seems to focus less on the depression and suicidal contemplation scene of Angela in the apartment, and instead heads forwards to the burning stairway scene later in the game, when it's implied that the town eventually consumed her into its hell for the murders of her father and brother. The ghostly writing behind the text also seems to do well in this colour scheme too, with giving the effect of a flickering fire that's burning all it touches. The browns and oranges also do well to represent the town in its otherworld state, with its rustic and metallic structures, or places that are in disrepair and decaying. Silent Hill 2 PC version. The PC version is just the same as one before, only a slightly yellower tone, so there's really nothing I can say about this one, I'm afraid, but it's still interesting to see the slight changes they've made to each of them. Silent Hill 2 Director's Cut. Much like with North America's Greatest Hits version of their game, there really isn't that much has changed in the European version bar two things. The Silent Hill title now has Director's Cut written underneath, and the colour has gone from a deathly greenish blue to an iconic shade of red that's very reminiscent of the save points found throughout the game. As I said in the other video, I see these save points as windows into James's fragmented memories that he must piece together while he tries to survive and figure out why he's come to the town. Now at first I was still unclear whether this was Mary or Maria in the image, but I eventually found out that it was actually Laura due to one of the images inside the European version of Silent Hill 2. The PC version of Director's Cut takes its colour scheme back to the original ghostly blue and doesn't follow the updated red, possibly because that was its first incarnation on PC over a year after its release on console. Silent Hill 2 Interferes. Finally, we have Silent Hill 2 Interferes, which is its first release on Xbox in 2002. Like with its Director's Cut and European PlayStation 2 release, there's very little differences, with this time it only being the subheading Interferes and its scratch cross-like background for the text. Like with all the Xbox releases, it contains an extra ending and the Born from a Wish scenario. Out of all these releases, I have to say that the one I liked the most was Saigo no Uta's original version with its metallic colour scheme and scan lines over the characters. It's somewhat messy and hard to focus on, but it's a nice subtle hint towards the world of Silent Hill, shrouded in haunting mystery and having to explore places unknown to discover horrors lurking in the darkness. Hope you enjoyed this video and discovering the alternative version of Silent Hill 2's releases and learned as much about them as I did. What did you think about them, and which one was your favourite? Let me know.